Okay, so I am working on draft 1 of my high fantasy novel, which is codenamed Project Camelot. I currently have 11,618 words in my documents. I've been working a bit sporadically on editing the scenes I wrote for Act 1 in my zero draft, and that's why I have like 11,000 words right now, but that will fluctuate a little bit as I'm editing. In July, I'm hoping to finish Act 1, and hopefully Act 2, I'm not going to be pressed if I don't finish Act 2, because I do think Act 2 is going to be the hardest section of the book for me to write, because at the moment it has the most issues, and while I was writing the zero draft, it had like a lot of scenes I had to add in still, which I still haven't really outlined. So when I'm going back into Act 2, I'm gonna have a lot of like new scenes to draft, because I haven't really developed a lot of the subplots yet. The like main plot line is, for the most part, I have everything, and one of the subplots is pretty intricately connected to the main plot, so I have that one fairly outlined, but there's like 2 subplots, maybe 3, that are quite important but don't have a lot of scenes in my zero draft. So if I don't finish them in the first draft, I'm gonna have a lot of adding to do in draft 2. So as of today, which is the 9th of July, I'm hoping to do some edits on chapter 2 and have it a bit cleaned up from what it is right now. It's a little bit, there's like a flashback that I need to add in, and I want to do some line editing on it, and then I'll move on to chapter 3. I don't think I'll get to chapter 3 today. I was hoping to finish Act 1 by the 15th-ish maybe, so that the rest of July I could spend on Act 2, but that's a bit ambitious. I am still working on Act 1. It is the 11th of July, and I'm rewriting chapter 3 right now, but I know the direction that I need to, take this chapter in. I have to kind of redo parts of the scenario. It's like the same scenes, but some of the circumstances are different in the rewrite of the chapter. I'm doing a lot of rewriting in this draft, trying to make it a lot more of a clean draft. I would rather not have to deal with an absolute mess of a plot when I start draft 2, so I'm trying my absolute best to make draft 1 be just trying to tighten the story and make the sequence of events lead into one another more directly. It is July 17th and I have 15,462 words in my draft 1 document for Project Camelot. I started Act 2 today, so I'm writing the first scene in Act 2 right now, and I realized that the restructuring I thought I would have to do in Act 2 may not need to happen, and I could probably just keep Act 2's like structure and sequence as is and just add like 1 or 2 chapters in between to add in what is missing. Act 1 is not done, but the restructuring that I had to do for Act 1, and maybe it was just me being like very perfectionistic and trying to make the beginning of the book be perfect when, you know, it's just the first draft and it's just about trying to figure out the story. But I gutted Act 1 and completely like restructured it, reconstructed the sequence in that first section of the book. Yeah, it was very hard to write, and I was getting really stuck trying to figure out everything when I should just be leaving some notes to myself, and when I come back in a few months to make a revision plan for the next draft, I'll be able to problem solve with a pair of fresh eyes. But yeah, it's still not done though. I still think I'm going to do some editing on it because there's some scenes I need to flesh out, and the problem I've been having is, so this is a retelling of Arthurian legend, hence why it's called Project Camelot. That's its code name. The problem I've been having is, one, the world building. When I was writing the zero draft, I thought it was going to be medieval fantasy, and since, you know, Arthurian legend is typically set in medieval settings, because it's from the medieval period, I thought it would have been smooth sailing, but I was losing interest in it, in that kind of setting, very quickly. It's not a setting that I think matches what I want to write. It was making it very difficult for me to immerse myself in the scenes because I couldn't imagine what I wanted the setting to look like. And when I did imagine what I wanted it to look like, it was a completely different time period, but I wanted to tell, Camelot retelling. So I made the very difficult decision to set it in a more 16th century England inspired fantasy world. It also matches up with what's going on in this world and a certain plot line that's in the story, because in the 16th century a lot of like world exploration was being done, and it just matches up better. The other thing I was having trouble with was I'm using multiple stories from Arthurian legend as my various plot lines in this book, and with one specific plotline, which is very important to the main story. It's a very big plot thread. I was having a lot of issues with how to approach certain characters and how true to the original versions of them to stick to, and how much I was going to change. And these are female characters we're talking about, so in Arthurian legends, the women in the story were not important unless they were being villainized in some way, villainized or giving birth to someone who would in future become a knight. So that's all the plot lines that women had in the original stories. I've been debating on how to approach those characters' storylines. Also, in terms of what I've been reading, I've been rereading Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon, A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking, T. Kingfisher, and I've been like skimming through Crush by Richard Seiken. So, yeah. Okay, hi. It is the 21st of July, and my update is I am so tired of writing chronologically. So I'm just gonna hop around in Act 2 and work on whatever scene I feel like working on until Act 2 is finished. Act 3 I'm definitely gonna have to write chronologically into Act 4, but there's like so much going on in Act 2 that I just like I kind of want to work on the storylines separately until I work out how everything kind of meshes together in Act 2, which is getting there, but there's these two kind of side characters at the moment who I have to bring them into some more scenes to kind of elaborate on their plot lines a bit, and so far there's basically nothing with them in Act 2. So I also kind of started brainstorming a project that I've had an idea for a while now. I'm not sure how long, maybe like a year or two, and the ideas started to kind of coalesce and really I started to get like scene ideas and stuff, which when I start to get scene ideas it means that I need to start like taking notes on things. So I started taking some notes, just some like preliminary themes and characters like that I want to be part of the main cast, and this is going to be like a really fun project. It's going to be a standalone urban fantasy set in, I'm not sure if I'm gonna make up a city. I think I'm going to do that. It's meant to be a Trinidadian inspired location, so I'm thinking to make up a city that's supposed to be in Trinidad, and yeah, it's gonna be like a really good. I have like so many things I think I would want to see with this book, because it's very focused on wealth and class, and there's like a heist. It's trying to steal from a rich family, some anti-colonial themes, post-colonialism. Yeah, I'm very excited to work on this. I don't know what my next project is going to be after I finish drafting Project Camelot, because it would be ideal to take a break from Project Camelot when I finish the draft, so that I can sit and I could come back to it with fresh eyes. I'm not 100% sure what I might work on next, but I think this new idea, since this one is like coming to me very vividly now, I think this might have to be the next project that I zero draft. So yeah, in terms of how I write, what I found works for me so far in the last couple of years is when I first start writing, working on a project, I can't fully outline the book because it's very hard for me to see the full picture until I do a zero draft, which can be anywhere from like 20,000 words to 50,000 words. And once I write that zero draft, I get an idea for what needs to be in the book, what shouldn't be in the book, what I need to change, what can stay, and then I can do an actual outline and write a full first draft. So I've technically only fully drafted one book so far, even though I've been writing since I was 12. I could never finish anything because I was so perfectionistic about it, and when I started zero drafting, I found that it was a lot easier to get through the bits I was unsure about until I could go back afterwards and fill in what was missing. Because usually once you go ahead, well for me, when I go ahead and write, when I come back to what was before, I have a better idea of what needs to be there. I'm a bit behind on my goal to finish like half of the book by the end of July. It's currently 17,477 words. I wrote this morning for about 15 minutes and I got like 200 and something words, 330 something. Okay, hi everyone. This is going to be my last update for this video. It is July 27th, but for the rest of the month, I'm going to be going back to Act 1 to do some edits so that I could hopefully send Act 1 to a friend for some feedback. The draft is at 31,000 words, and yeah, hopefully I can like flesh out everything that I like skipped in Act 1, because I really need some feedback on how Act 1 is going and if like everything is interesting, is everything set up properly. Act 2 is still kind of a mess. I'm jumping around and just writing the scenes that I am most interested in at the time, so I am not sure when I'll finish Act 2. I honestly think I'm gonna go ahead to Act 3 once August starts, and I'll work through Act 3 and maybe Act 4, then come back to Act 2, because there's just so much going on in Act 2. I really need like a little bit of a break from this project right now. I've been writing it like every day almost since mid-May. I've been going at it non-stop. It's been consuming me and my brain, and I feel like I need to take a few days to write something else. So maybe this week, today's Saturday, so the coming week I might work on a short story. I started a short story in June called Meet Me in the Mist, contemporary fantasy horror kind of thing. I might work on that this week and finish drafting it, and then come back to Project Camelot. The burnout is real. Like I feel the burnout like creeping up on me. It's also because like the past few weeks I haven't really been sleeping well, and I've been like trying to wake up early to work on the book, and I think like it's just been taking a toll on me, so I feel really drained and I don't want that to get worse. That is where I'm at right now. I thought maybe I could share like a little bit. A friend of mine read what I have for chapter 1 so far. But yeah, a friend of mine read chapter 1, and I didn't think the first line was very good when I sent it to her, but then they pointed out the first line. I was like, oh, this is really good first line, and I was like, wait, it is a good first line, so I'll share the first line. I don't know if I'll edit this out from the video, but Guinevere lifted her gaze to the saints born anew. She shed her old name, her old faith, her old life in preparation to become queen of a foreign land. Sister Maria dipped her thumb into a clay pot of oil, and Guinevere knelt before her, allowing the nun to mark a circle on her forehead, the symbol often used to represent the 4 saints, where they sat around the round table as they prepared for war 1,000 years ago. Yeah, I am really enjoying writing this book, though. It is a bit of a new experience in terms of, like, I don't think I've ever written something so deeply entrenched about, like, royalty. Like, there's 4 narrators. 2 of them are the king and queen, and then 2 of them are part of the royal courts, so it's kind of interesting. I don't think I've ever written something like this before. That is it for this video.